All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 104. Oberstein. I'm
worried, man.
I love you. You're amazing. You're in danger. I'm just hoping. Wahlen, okay. You can
cool them down.
Cool them down. You can
Cool
write
them
this
down.
whole boat because you are the one actually
Yeah.
that has the most perspective on how bad the situation can get
Because
when military
Oberstein's
forces
criticisms
use
were
unnecessarily.
very much right for you in a way that was recent.
And the thing is that and hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that you don't let your pride get hurt, you can know that you didn't do anything wrong, really.
Nope.
You did everything right.
Yeah.
And it still went wrong.
Yeah,
400,000 people still died.
Yeah, that's
right?
why Oberstein's
that's why it's important.
So I'm really excited to see these three admirals have some talks with each other, have some talks with maybe their subordinates.
Right.
I think that there could be some really cool opportunities for the subordinates of these three to kind of add some extra perspective into this, where it's like, yeah, I don't like Oberstein either, but
right.
he's right. And at the very
Bittenfeld
least,
is not the one that should be making the decisions.
yeah, at the very least, let's talk to Reinhardt about this.
Yeah.
Let's pass things up the food chain. That's literally what Oberstein asked them to do.
Yep.
Like, please, go talk to Reinhardt. I have no issues with being confronted by him for being, like, disrespectful to His Highness. Like,
I believe I'm right. In fact, I know I'm right. So,
even if Reinhardt tells me that I'm wrong, that's okay because he's at the
command.
top.
Yeah,
I will respect his decision. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited for this because we've got one of my favorite characters' head very close to the chopping block right now.
I know.
So
do you even know what Oberstein does? Like, even if you take him out.
Fellner does.
Fellner
does. Fellner does. So,
boy.
all's not lost yet. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This episode was fantastic.
A really good episode.
I loved it. Like, they kept the tension from everything that happened before. They escalated it, and yet they did it in ways that made it so that it's like, I absolutely believe that all of these characters would do the things that they're doing, right? Yeah. Like, I love how this show balances the, like, rule of cool of things like Wahlen just driving up in a tank and, staring at them, right? Yeah. While at the same time having
we had
things
nearly regiments going at each other with guns.
Exactly, right? The things that were outside of the officer's control, basically, where all of a sudden shit, right? The problems that have been developing beneath the surface as a result of the way Bittenfeld does things suddenly,
and the way Oberstein does things,
suddenly they come out in full force, and it's got to be dealt with.
Yeah. So I love that we started the episode, though, with Reinhardt and Mariendorf, because having these two have this conversation is really good, not just for the fact that they're better together, but also the idea that, hey, I get it. You don't really like Oberstein, but if you look back on the ways that you've done things, you have taken his advice a lot of the times because he brings sound judgment to a lot of the things that he does. Now, he obviously has a specific way of looking at things.
Right.
That means that, he is trying to bolster your rule, Reinhardt, because you are moving things away from the corrupt world of the nobility.
Right. Don't trust him wholeheartedly because you might end up letting a planet get nuked again. But yeah. But the idea that his choice here, while extreme, could force you all to have a fun opportunity to interact with the leaders of the Iserlon Republic. Yep.
And it would be on the road that Oberstein paved, as you so eloquently put. But that might not necessarily be such a bad thing. One of the things that I think is really beautiful about the way Oberstein handles things is he does not try to prolong the fighting. He tries to end it.
Yep.
He does have methods that are barbaric and extreme, but war itself is barbaric and extreme.
Right.
So always, in the way, I think this is something even Yang said, is that you should always
no war is the best war.
Yeah, exactly. You should always find the fastest way to end a war, be it via negotiations or by, leading
overwhelming
fleets.
Force. Or,
yeah, exactly. The best way to win a battle is to have, 6-to-1 odds, and just walk in and basically be like, I demand your surrender, because if you don't surrender,
we will crush you.
And
that would be stupid because you have no chance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in this case here, Oberstein is using the 1-to-6, almost thing of saying, I have 10,000 people. You are all ones that value not just human life, but the idea of lives that could be, wholesale slaughtered at the behest of a tyrannical or
at the
autocratic
press of a
power.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that you all can't stand, right? So let's force, at the very least, negotiations. Wonderful. Okay. Bittenfeld, house arrest. Unique perspective that we gotten from Bittenfeld here. He is thinking about the ways in which, Oberstein can flex his power even more to end a conflict that he kind of wants to end himself, but he also sees it as a thing that would leave a stain on maybe not just the Empire's, honor, but Reinhardt's and by extension his.
Right.
So
I love that.
It's a unique look on things there. Okay.
That was something that I really appreciated here because while Bittenfeld is Bittenfeld, right? And he's very hot-headed and he causes all kinds of blunders and chaos and things like that.
Yep.
He is an admiral for a reason. Not just because he can confidently charge the enemy, but because he is actually smart, right? He has the chops to be a strategist and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that he doesn't always think with reason. And in fact, most of the time he doesn't. But yeah, when he's locked up in his house, he's not just fuming at Oberstein, even though, he's doing that a lot, right?
Yeah.
But he's also thinking, okay, what's Oberstein going to do here? Oh, disguise people as Church of Terra, attack and kill the Iserlohn Republic leaders en route, and then blame it on the Church of Terra. There you go. Political crisis averted. He gets what he wants. It's a great point. Like that does seem like something Oberstein would try and do. It feels very nobility nukes situation, right?
Yeah, you kill even less people to end the conflict with the Iserlohn Republic. Now,
it's
given that
500 instead or whatever.
Given that we know what Oberstein is really trying to do here, there's no way he would do that because in reality, he knows that the Iserlohn Republic is also still smart enough to where they wouldn't send everyone there. So therefore,
and then all negotiations would be off past that point. Forever.
And then you would be forced to eventually invade the Iserlohn
basically
corridor.
Kill them down to the last man.
And you would lose half as many as you were originally going to when you invaded, but you would still lose a lot more than 5,000 to 10,000.
Exactly.
So that's obviously not, Oberstein's plan. What he would probably like to have is that they leverage their strength once they come in there, set up a deal by which they willingly turn over Iserlohn, but then change their status to be even less of a threat to the Empire in general. But then in 10 years, they won't even be a problem at all based on the deal that you set up with them.
Yeah, because since Oberstein, I love how Oberstein's basically so confident that he's like, once it becomes a talking game, I win.
I immediately win.
I will destroy them with cold facts and logic, right?
Kind of. I mean, that is essentially what he is. Yeah.
Yep. And the thing is someone like that is very important to have. I love how Mariendorf and Reinhardt talked about him and the part that he plays within the Empire, right? Having someone who thinks outside the box, that's really important, right? Because he will bring things up that no one else will. He'll cover your blind spots, right? He'll have things like, no, I will demand that we will take a little hit on certain informational things because we need to make sure that the navigation data is backed up. And then, hey, what do you know?
Or
right?
I'm not going to censor this from the news. I want Iserlohn to know that this is infighting that we are dealing with, because it shows the severity of the moral honor, argument that's happening here. Thus, they know that this is something that they're taking very seriously, and thus it can bring up the conversation with them. It is smart, and yet ultimately the person who, if this all plays out as Oberstein wants, the person who takes the biggest hit here is ultimately Oberstein. Now, By extension, Reinhard takes the hit
because he lets
Oberstein do this.
Yeah.
So, on some level, Oberstein needs to prove to Reinhard that he is the one that bears any kind of responsibility for the ways things get mishandled.
Right.
Because while Bittenfeld and the other officers and their subordinates and those subordinates and their troops could act out on their own and do things with regards to this, it's not going to matter necessarily in the grand scheme of things, because this scheme, if you will, is Oberstein's.
Right. It feels very, very similar to the Lang situation, where Oberstein is like, yes, I can use Lang, right? And he, he was able to get a lot done with Lang.
Sure.
But the plan didn't go perfectly.
Yep.
And then as a result of that,
a lot of people don't like Oberstein.
Well, and a lot of harm was done.
True.
Right? True. Ruenthal would probably still be alive if not for that.
Yeah. Does Oberstein potentially see this as a better, world for the Empire, in that Ruenthal is no longer a potential problem that's going to happen, 20 years down the line?
Because it definitely happened, but as a result of that, other problems now are starting to happen. Because one of the things that I think is important to remember is that even though Oberstein is a very cold, calculating machine, right? It's folly, I would say, when you have people like that to believe that they are completely unmoved by emotion. What it really is that the emotion is just so deep down that you'll rarely see it, and they'll rarely see it.
Right.
And that when they're being affected by it, they won't
necessarily know. Yeah.
They won't know. Because
like the part where he kind of chastised Reinhardt there, that was emotional.
Yep.
That was not a thing that helped his cause in really much of any way.
You were going outside your station.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
Like, that's something that, and if you hadn't done that, you probably would have been able to get Bittenfeld to get in line. Maybe not Bittenfeld.
Maybe not Bittenfeld.
You would have been able to have, like, say, Mueller help you out a lot more easily and, resolve the situation. Maybe right? Yeah. But in this situation, he didn't, right? And Oberstein's backstory is that because of his whole, issue and such, he was, well, actually, I might be getting this mixed up with Ruenthal. He had the eye problem, and I want to say it was something where under the previous, like, nobility, he would have been, like, killed or something like that, or was that Ruenthal because of the heterochromia?
I think that was Ruenthal.
That might have been Ruenthal. Okay, so maybe scratch this. But
yeah, I think Oberstein was more dealing with the fact that there was rampant corruption happening in these areas, and he basically had to watch.
That's right, yeah. He doesn't have the chip on his shoulder with regards to the nobility in the same way that Ruenthal did.
It is still a chip on his shoulder.
But it is still a chip on his shoulder. And so, him going after Ruenthal like that kind of was also because he didn't like Ruenthal, right? Ruenthal was a potential threat, but
there was no one really in the Empire that was a threat to Reinhard. Sorry, there was no one in the galaxy that was a threat to Reinhard, really, outside of Ruenthal.
Sure, and
like the Isolon Republic didn't matter. All this stuff was basically just no, I'm watching you. If you cause problems, if you start to look like you're making some stuff there, I will systematically destroy you. I will make it easy.
Right.
And he did. Oberstein won that whole shadow conflict, basically.
Right. But, that was a conflict that maybe didn't have to happen. Nope. And now we've got a conflict that is not in the shadows.
Yeah, because he didn't really understand the heart of Ruenthal. And that's the thing that Oberstein shares as a blind spot with some other characters in the story, is that he is so competent in these specific areas that his blind spot is one that he believes he has covered for him because he keeps succeeding. His arguments are so sound that he ignores that 1% or 2% deviation where it doesn't really apply.
It's because his hammer is really good, everything looks like a nail, and that doesn't work all the time. You might still be able to get what you want, but you might break some things along the way.
Yeah, and if he's basically of the opinion that, I was going to break some things anyway, I'm not breaking the things that really matter, therefore this is acceptable.
And who knows, maybe the whole situation of like the political blowback of if they actually ended up needing to execute the 5,000 or 10,000 people that they had gathered because, Iserlon didn't accept their demands or something like that. Maybe he was even foreseeing that when Reinhard found out about this, that he would make it be a negotiation thing rather than an unconditional surrender right out the gate. and it's the, yes, but he wouldn't have done that if I hadn't taken the initiative to gather them up in the first place.
Sure.
So I'll do that first, let it be known that we have them, and then...
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission, yeah.
Right, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that Oberstein is smart enough to have made that move because he's so used to dealing with Reinhardt's pride in general.
Right.
And he's basically saying, yeah, Reinhardt's going to come here and slap me on the wrist pretty hard and be like, Oberstein, this was a move that I would have loved to see you bring up to me in the formation stage so that I could have been more a part of it with you.
But then, by doing it this way, he starts the conversation, and then he can be like, but, Your Highness, Your Eminence, look at this,
It's easy.
Yeah.
There's really... There's really no the way we can screw this up.
Even if we go to battle after this, doing this at the start just is a good idea, And yeah, because the whole thing that Mariendorf brought up of like, hey, use it as leverage for negotiations, and then because that's almost like a, well, of course we'll be up for negotiating, right? But this is a guaranteeing of that, and if for some reason they decide not to, then it's on them because it's the wait, you don't want to actually talk about this?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you could win the political.
You could win the political thing,
No, I'm saying if they do that, then the Empire could win the political blowback battle of your leaders. We offered them, safety, and they could definitely spin it as no, they saw it as a trap, or you definitely set up some kind of trap and did that. All it would have to be is that they just show one or two instances of very clear stuff of where they definitely did not set up a trap.
Yeah, we just did this to make sure that the fighting would stop in the immediate. That way we have some security that they're not going to, sneak past to our home turf or something like that. And that, there will be a ceasefire until we negotiate. There's plenty of ways to spin it. But
so here we go.
Favorite part of the episode, though,
was Wahlen in the armored car.
That was so awesome.
Just sitting there staring at them. Doesn't even need to hold his weapon.
Yep. Because,
doesn't even need to point the main gun of the armored car, towards any of them.
I thought he was going to even,
sits on top.
Say something at the very least. Of,
doesn't even
how
say
dare
anything.
you? No words needed. It's one of those things that having the just wonderful comedy and awesomeness that comes in these moments that doesn't tear away from the realism, right? Because of course, Wahlen's a legend, right? These guys are foot soldiers basically, right?
They're the ones that basically took this empire to where it is now with Reinhardt.
Yeah.
They're all looked up at as higher than they are,
right.
which is hilarious because in some ways
he's invoking nobility.
He's invoking the nobility,
which is something that they bought into because that's why they're so pissed about Bittenfeld, right?
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah,
it very much reminds me of that end scene from Man in the Iron Mask where the Three Musketeers are like, okay, what do we do? They've got tons of guns and stuff. What are we talking about? They were weaned on the tales of our exploits. You think they'll be able to look at us as we charge and actually pull the trigger?
Right.
It's I love it. So
Wahlen,
Wahlen,
you're incredible.
Yeah.
I also love how much Wahlen has defied death so many times in subtle ways because Wahlen had so many death flags when he left his family.
I know.
Just put up. And we've been basically riding on the coattails of he's still alive. He's still okay. He's doing fine. He's doing fine. And then he does something like this alone. All it would have taken was for someone to start yelling some shit at him and basically people to be like, hey, don't talk shit about Wahlen. What? And then one shot.
Yeah.
Wahlen would have been dead.
And I'm not entirely convinced, since we don't know the location of where the fighting broke out, originally, where Wahlen is, I'm not entirely convinced that that's not what's going to happen, right? Church of Terra gets news of what's going on. Oh, wait, an admiral is just sitting in the open? I mean,
that's true. That incident
we can't
did not
pass
end
this up.
In this episode. All we did was we cut away to other stuff. Now, that could be that we've moved forward in time.
It totally could be, right? And I would love for Wahlen's rule of cool moment to not be besmirched and undercut by something like that happening.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that could totally happen.
Still could totally
and
happen,
if there were to be something at this point to cause things to erupt, I would either think it to be the Church of Terra doing something that we haven't foreseen yet.
Yeah.
And an admiral dies.
The one that was kind of the hardest middle ground, like the person who really took the hardest stance on the middle ground between Bittenfeld and Oberstein in this in the whole conversations where there were a lot of interviews with the subordinates and stuff like that, I really liked that they brought up the idea that, no, Oberstein is not accepting meetings right now. You guys screwed up. You're not going to get some kind of leveraged negotiation thing here. So, therefore, they go to Wahlen and Mueller, and it's that, well, come on, like we need some way to make this better here. And we have the differences between Eugen, who is like, I will absolutely help as best I can.
I want nothing to happen.
But I'm coming to you because I'm nervous.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm enough right now.
Right.
And when the other officers come in, we realize, oh yeah, totally not. He's even outnumbered on that front, let alone the subordinates.
And the way Wahlen quickly chastised them by being like, are you going to literally have another point where Imperial forces will fight each other on Heinesen when that just happened recently? Yep. And they're like, holy shit! Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry. Yeah. We're not wanting that. No, right. We just thought we could complain a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Wallen's just like, nah. Bitch ass is out of here.
Yep.
Go see
to the order. My tank.
Yeah, go see to the order and discipline of your men. Yep.
Right.
Get out of here. I love it. Well, you're just incredible. But yeah, this episode really set up a lot of things in a really good way. Reinhardt should be on his way, although we did not have him interacting yet with Mittermeier and Kessler. So I believe that will probably be happening in the next episode him quickly leaving for Heinesen.
Right, yeah. But that also the way they shot that whole scene with him and Mariendorf very much gives like the...
Oh, we're worried, yep. Oh boy, it might not be Oberstein that bites the dust, though. It could be like, Reinhardt.
When Reinhardt was gripping his wrist and everything, and it's like, Jesus, he's so pale and like thin. Like,
well, yeah. I thought that was more of. Do you want to go into that? Because I don't think that's what it was. A health thing that was the reason why he was doing that.
Oh yeah.
Because if you looked at the context of, I think what he was talking about at the time there, he's basically saying, only I can do this. But even if we go there, I won't be able to free myself. He's literally gripping himself with a vice grip of like, I am not free right now. I still, I've freed myself the dishonor of demanding surrender at the expense of the lives of the hostages. He does not like that he's being pushed into the situation and manipulated to make this happen in a way that to him would tarnish his pride.
In a lot of ways, one of the things that he could do is he could say, he goes there, and then he's like, okay, Oberstein, yes, this was a good plan. However, the orders that I had, basically, even if they were maybe general, I gave you command and stuff, were to figure things out militarily. This is
but he's not a military guy though. He is a military guy, but
he's not like
he's a minister of state,
minister of military
affairs. So he is a military guy.
He is a military guy. So he could do something of like you cross the line. This is a good idea, but you have also besmirched me, basically the Kaiser, by presenting a threat in this manner, and I cannot take that back.
Yeah.
And then maybe he demotes him or something.
Or at the very least, I think demoting him actually makes a lot of sense, because I don't think they need necessarily a single person that is that powerful. But what I would love to see happen is, because Mariendorf brought up the idea of, well, do it through negotiations rather than surrender, is that he says, okay, once they get here, or like on the way here, let them know that on their arrival of Heinesen, I will immediately send these people, like, out. Like, they're free. Like, he could immediately drop the leverage of, we're now in open negotiations. Now that you've agreed to come here, and as an act of good faith and to win the political battle even more, Reinhardt could be like, I have sent them all on ships to Iserlohn.
Sure.
Like, you are, like, you do not have to feel that I'm lording them over you, even though Reinhardt might be like,
not going to send them to Iserlohn, but, you know.
Right. He might be like, I will send them to El Facil.
Sure.
And they'll be held there by, an Imperial fleet of some kind.
And even if it's just that they're not, like, arrested anymore, that would be huge, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, well, theoretically, they could just be like, we're going to turn around and go back. It's like, well, okay. So you really don't want to talk.
Right.
And then that would close the door for them with negotiations later.
Right, but I wonder if even then, this is still a thing that Oberstein would have predicted, is that he's like, the most logical thing for you to do to me, Reinhardt, if anything, is to potentially demote me and take away a lot of the antipathy towards me for all these things that I've done. Because ultimately, all of this I've done has been in service of the Empire, in service of building this rule by which we will remove the idea of the nobility. So yes, please demote me.
Right. Like, let everyone see you do that.
Let everyone see you do that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the thing
like, I don't care if I lose money, status, power, all that stuff. Well,
and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that he was planning on happening.
Sure.
I will draw all the ire of everyone else, and then be the person of, oh, okay, yeah, you're not in as high of a station anymore. He can still be used if needed.
Sure.
Right. But, you know, you're not in that high of a command anymore. Cool.
Yeah.
And then
now that might not make him safe, if you will, from people that really don't like him still.
Yeah, but if he's still like, you know, an officer, but just not like quite that high.
Yeah, like
you know,
he could definitely still be an admiral of sorts, but he's no longer a high admiral or something.
Like, because if you have that, and then on top of that, you have Mittermeier becoming the Minister of State, then you have something where there's no longer the triumvirate of high admirals, right?
Well, I guess hasn't been a case for a long time now.
Ruenthal, yeah. Now, theoretically, Mueller, his situation is a bit complicated, but then you could have something where it's okay, now you don't have to worry about a consolidation of power of people that are big enough to potentially split things up if things get problematic.
If the worst happens.
Right, if the worst happens, yeah.
So, okay, then we have some curious decisions that will be made, but we also have the rug pool incident. I've never heard, I don't think that's a planet, I don't think that's a city.
That sounds like a street name, and that's why I'm worried for Wahlen.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely sounds like something local, like a street name. So I really think that what might happen is that the violence will
resume,
but it will escalate. And it might be, and this is actually the part that kind of makes sense, actually, is that even if this happens, it could break out basically just at Bittenfeld's place of house arrest. And it's just a thing of where some people come in and they're like,
we're going to rescue you.
We're going to rescue you. And Bittenfeld's like, oh.
Okay, sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Now, I really, really would love to see a cool twist of where they come to rescue him, people die, Bittenfeld sees his men coming out there and we're here to rescue you. He's like, you dumbasses. And then he kicks the ass of literally everyone as they come in the room. It's like, you go tell them. And they're like they actually like have that like thing of, but you're a commander. Like
that would be so awesome.
It's like, I want Reinhardt to come here and tell me I was right.
Sure.
I want that vindication from Reinhardt. I don't care about any of you coming in here and doing this. I respect your gumption.
Right.
But get your asses out of here. Don't get arrested. Like, I don't think that's what Bittenfeld will do.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Thanks for spoiling us, narrator.
Yeah.
We know something bad
and yet
is
we
coming.
don't know what bad is going to happen.
Yeah. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below. For our Patreon, you can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access. So you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yes, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.